I don't know what you even call this. They're not like scandals anymore. They're not conspiracies. I don't think they're just coaches that got fired. The big news currently is Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern is out as of yesterday. Nasty rumors. I guess that's the fair term, right? I mean, hazing rumors essentially for years and years and years. And a very divisive one here because a lot of people have come out to defend Pat Fitzgerald, including prominent media members. We've also got a bunch of people who played for him and grad assistants that were in the walls of that program that are denying this completely and saying there was no one that was ever offended by this, even though their peers are saying they were offended. Very touchy subject. Didn't mean that as a pun, but very touchy subject. Bob Huggins. Bob Huggins, everybody knows what happened there. I mean, he had two chances at this, right? He had the horrible comments on a radio show, and then he had a DUI. Now he's coming back saying that he never formally, what's the word? Not retired, but
resigned.
He never formally resigned from West Virginia.
Because he doesn't have email, right?
Even though there's documentation of this, and he's blaming his wife now, which seems like a crazy move for a guy who nobody wants anything to do with anymore. This is just two messy situations, two totally separate situations. But my takeaway is something that connects both of them. What is your biggest takeaway from, I guess, the Bob Huggins situation to start, and then do Pat Fitzgerald as well?
Well, for Bob Huggins, for me, I just don't understand why there's kind of so much, oh God, like it's Huggy Bear. It's Huggins. He's such a, oh God, what a legend. Like, oh, Huggins wouldn't do that. That's what kills me. The people taking these coaches' names and saying, oh, they wouldn't do this. Well, that's the thing. They did do it. And with Huggins, I just really don't have much remorse because you had the situation where you had the nasty comments on the radio show with the anti-gay slurs, and saying that on air and getting suspended for that. And then literally not less than a month after that, you get a DUI where also he blew a .21, which is like, you shouldn't even be functioning at that point for some people. And he's out here driving the car. And then he tells his team that he's done. And now he's blaming his wife and doing all this other stuff and basically just ruining and tarnishing his name and the little name that he had left for the rest of his career. And now I just don't understand like why the remorse is with them. And with the Fitzgerald situation, the same thing. Like, why is everyone just jumping to why the first thing when you read all these allegations and these comments is no, couldn't be my Pat, not my good old Pat Fitzgerald. He's a good Northwestern man. He knows everything. DeSantis, Trump 2024. That's usually how that goes. That's usually what the bios look like who defend him. There's all this hazing going on. There's all this evidence going on. And your first thought is to defend the man. No, he did the wrong thing in this case. And I also don't understand the whole hazing environment too. Like maybe it's an old thing. When I hazed my teammates, I had them drive me home from the bar when I was drunk. Like that's how I hazed my teammates. I didn't want to touch them. So it's a whole different world out there that I can't even understand. But both of them had to get the axe. I don't understand. Huggy's just not going quietly for some reason.
Yeah, you like as a media member, as a fan, I think it's a really dangerous spot because you can just be blinded by fandom. You can be blinded by personal relationship. There's a bunch of different ways that can convince you that good people in your mind are good people and are infallible of being a part of something that makes them lose their job. And that's just not true. That can happen anywhere. It's complicated, especially in the Pat Fitzgerald one. The Bob Huggins one isn't complicated. The dude literally said some slurs on a show, somehow didn't lose his job, and then a month later got blackout drunk, didn't know what city he was in, and put everybody's lives in danger on the road that night. Like, he's lucky he didn't kill someone. Of course he should be fired, and now he's behaving like an old drunk madman in the way he's releasing a statement after this. Pat Fitzgerald's more complicated to me, and I'm not defending him in any means. I think he should be fired. I'm glad he was fired, but it's more complicated because there are very conflicting reports, right? Like people within the program are saying this is not what happened. At the same time, people within the program are saying this is what happened. Nobody was adamantly denying that Bob Huggins didn't say horrible comments or didn't drive drunk. That happened. He was fired. Pat Fitzgerald, like, unless you were in that room, you don't know what happened. And it's a split on what happened in that room. Obviously, you should take the allegations very seriously. It is like to your, I like your point. Like, I agree with your point on how people should handle and respond to this stuff. The only thing I would say is, like, we kind of went through this with Michigan State a few years back with, like, the way ESPN condemned Tom Izzo and Mark D'Antonio for something they ended up not having a part in really at all. Right. And
Right.
everybody jumped on them. And at the time, I thought they were both going to get fired. Like, I just thought it was going to play out exactly how Pat Fitzgerald's thing did. In reality, that didn't happen, and more information came out, and the school stood by them, and that's great. It's a good thing those guys did not become, I guess, victims of whatever you want to call this whole situation. Pat Fitzgerald feels different. It feels like there are some more clear connections to him being involved and aware that this stuff happened. But I do think, like, it's a dangerous spot where, like, every situation just needs to be taken one by one, because you can't just across the board be like, these guys should be fired immediately when there's an accusation, because the sad truth about our world is there's going to be accusations of a lot of shit at a lot of different places. And I think you just got to wait for the investigations to play out. But it seems like these both resulted in what they should have. And the larger point is, like, even if you're not sure, or even if your experience with Pat Fitzgerald feels different, you shouldn't go out and, like, flatly deny that this could happen. That's what bothers me. Like, I'm really annoyed with people who are like, Pat Fitzgerald's a great guy, there's no way this could happen. There's absolutely a way this could happen. Like,
yeah, very much so.
good people can get involved in horrible things, and good people are, like, can be good to one person and really bad to others. Like, that just is what it is. There's a dichotomy there of how the human experience goes. Like, I have personal experience with that. I had a coach in high school who, like, I loved, I won a lot of games with, and then found out he was doing some horrible things years later. Like, I'm not going to come out and be like, because I love this guy deserves his job still. No, like, just let it go. Fans need to separate fandom from what these accusations are, take them seriously, and be willing to part with whatever memories you have of Pat Fitzgerald or Bob Huggins because of the reality of these situations. So,
yeah. And this might not be for you. This might just be me. I think it's okay. It's more so people not coming on saying, oh, Pat Fitzgerald was a good coach, but he's a good coach who did a lot for Northwestern, but these are serious allegations. If these are true, then, he should be fired or he should be punished, basically, like that. It was more so the people that irked me is people that came out, no, Pat Fitzgerald couldn't do this because it's Pat Fitzgerald and he's a Northwestern man. He can't do this. He's a good guy. I know Pat Fitzgerald. It's that's the part that just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah. I mean,
but you summed it up. You summed it up well. Like you said, people have a hard time thinking that certain people cannot do things wrong and have, like, this godlike figure where, like, they can't mess up and can't do something wrong. It's anybody. No one is above anything.
Yeah, everybody makes mistakes. Some people's mistakes are, like, they left the light on in the living room for too long, or, like, they forgot to change their air conditioner in their house and the house was too cold when they woke up. Some people's mistakes are getting blackout drunk and thinking you're in a different state than you're in after a Taylor Swift concert. So it is, I will say this, Cart, I mean, to an extent, like, it's a shame to see Pat Fitzgerald go down like this. Like, hard not to respect what he built at Northwestern. And you got to have some charm, some resilience, and ability to get from the suburbs to the city without the Uber app in that job. So that's why my first call would be Bob Huggins if I'm Northwestern football. Just food for thought, just throwing that out there. All right, let's move on.